Garry's a former merchant seaman from Derry, Northern Ireland, who set off to circumnavigate in the boat that you see in front of you, his beloved Ovnia. It seems to me that everybody who's got an ovni is completely besotted by them. I've never met an unbesotted ovni owner yet, but Garry will tell us more about that particular fetish. His plans had to change radically from a circumnavigation when COVID struck on St. Patrick's Day, appropriately enough, when he was in St. Martin's in St. Martin's, I think, in the Caribbean. As a result, Garry sailed back to Northern Ireland in a single passage, which wasn't planned or prepared for. And as a result of that, his single-handed, of which we'll hear about more, retreat from COVID, he was awarded the OCC Seamanship Award, which is going to get presented to him on Saturday. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Garry. Hopefully he's recovered his breath and his composure. Garry, please go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Simon. Listen, I'm sorry for the delay there. I had technical issues, shall we say. But listen, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak on this webinar. As you say, I'm a relatively new member. I've only been in 1 year, maybe 2 years, my second year or something. And I was absolutely overjoyed to receive the Seamanship Award. You know, it came out of the it came right out of the blue. I was very honoured and very much surprised to have received it. You know, and when I look back on the previous OCC Seamanship Award winners, you know, I'm a bit overawed by their exploits. Every one of them is either sort of a circumnavigator or they've been through death-defying feats of heroism and saving people. And my loop of the Atlantic really seems a bit of a meager experience in comparison. So
no, not at all, Garry. Sally and I won one, so anybody can get them.
I just want to thank you, everyone who's involved in making the choice. I believe Phil Heaton may have had an undue influence on that, but thank you. I owe you one, Phil. Like I said, my webinar won't be showing any secret hidden anchorages nor stunning views across glacial valleys only reachable by mountaineers. It's not that kind of a trip. I'm not that kind of a guy. It's a pretty mundane story of about how I survived this last decade or so. So if you feel free to head over to your favorite YouTube sailing channel if it gets a wee bit tedious in that respect, you know. So I expect you know the reason why I undertook the Transat journey of about 4,000 miles during lockdown single-handedly. It was to get to my daughter's wedding, but really that trip was only a very small part of the journey, which began 11 years ago on the 19th of October 2009, on Monday. I recollect it well. When I was young, I spent about 13 years traveling the world, initially as a radio officer and then on general cargo ships and things like that, traveling in steel, so to speak. Traveled the world for a number of years as a radio officer, and then I moved across and worked on diving ships. Oh, yeah, I don't even know how to go back now. Oh dear, this is not going to go well. I can see this. Yes, there we go. I'm sure somebody amongst there would probably recognize that. Most likely Bob, I would say, for definite. So like I say, I worked in diving support vessels on the oil industry, and when I was at work, I had access to SSB radios and I used to listen to Herb on the Maritime Mobile Net, you know, talking to the various yachts that were crossing the Atlantic and stuff. So I always had an interest in traveling further afield on my own boat. Always dreamed of it, and I left the left the Merchant Navy, and whenever my children came along, about 1991 or thereabouts, took up a job as a, believe it or not, I was involved in computers. You wouldn't think it from the way this show started, but I worked as a senior network engineer in the Queen's University in Belfast, looking after quite a large network. And I used to travel to work. Queen's University in Belfast, about 75 miles away from me. So I used to travel to work on a motorcycle. And that's sort of the beauty there in all its glory. It's a work of art, you know. Is two of my greatest loves in life are sailing and motorcycling. So that was it. And then on the 19th of October 2009, on my way to work, there was a Citroen Picasso parked on the hard shoulder. And this provided me with the opportunity to return to my life on the high seas. Not exactly the method of returning to sailing that I had expected, but really that's what brought it all about. That's what brought about the change in my lifestyle. The injuries I sustained in that accident, as you can see, were pretty severe. That's a short list of the initial things that were damaged. Pretty horrendous: broken ribs, collarbone, left arm, fractured neck, C5, C7, skull fractured, skull degloved. That means all the skin came off my head and my skull was shining through. My pulmonary artery was torn, so I was pumping blood into my chest cavity as well. Needed to get an emergency stent. Spent 10 days in an induced coma. So it was a tough old station, to say the least. That was me in all my glory in the hospital, getting fed through a tube, getting air pumped into me constantly. So that was 10 days, I guess. So I spent a few months in hospital like that, and at the end of it, I came out the other side without the use of my left arm, just hanging limp. It was just and useless, and there was no way it was ever going to return. So the physical aspect of the injuries were pretty horrendous, but the mental side of it was equally as bad, or if not maybe even worse, the mental aspect of it. Sorry about that. This is pretty horrendous for a sailing channel, isn't it? So I had mental disabilities, you know, so I had memory loss, I suffered from depression, times I'd wished that I was left at the side of the road, in all honesty. Huge difficulties in coming to terms with such a drastic change in my life. And really, one of the great motivations to get me back on track was this local charity called Foil Sailability. It started up around about the same sort of time as I was recovering, and I got involved with them. Foil Sailability, and I'm now for my sins, I'm now the chairman of the thing. I got roped into that. I don't know how I managed that, but with the help of Foil Sailability, it helped me get my confidence back. Really, it's hard to explain how difficult things are whenever you're hit with such a life-changing event. You know, like I was always practical, tinkering with engines, fixing motorbikes, repairing things. I repaired houses. From the first house I had no hot and cold running water, and had to install that. So I was a very practical guy, and to end up with only one hand is really, really difficult. And fixing anything is difficult with one hand, and you try it with two hands. You know, you try it with one hand behind your back. It's not easy. I purchased Kind of Blue in 2014. That was nearly 4 years after my injury. It cost me an arm and a leg. The ovnies are not cheap by any means. So people are always asking me, you know, how do you afford such a wonderful boat? You know, and I tell them, well, it cost me cost an arm and a leg, but the reality was it didn't. It just cost me an arm. But expensive boat, lovely boat, and as Simon says, anyone who ever any OVNI owners, you know, they're infatuated with them. Oh, Jesus, I cannot use this bloody computer. Going back to there, that's a pretty horrendous. I shouldn't have put that one in there. One of the major problems that I had with the injury was pain, excruciating pain. It you have it 24 hours a day, constantly, and really I couldn't have gone on. I couldn't have sailed. I couldn't have got on with life the way I was, you know. So I went for a big operation called a DREZ, dorsal root something or other, something. Basically, they take the spinal cord out of your spine and open it up and zap the insides of it to kill the nerve endings. It's a pretty, as you can see, it's a pretty awful operation. And I got that in 2014, just before I got the boat. And really the outcome of that operation was the deciding factor that I would survive. I would motor on. I would do the things that I wanted to do. I wouldn't get stuck in. I wouldn't get stuck with the disability that the way it leaves you. You know, you got to move on. So, so really gained that new determination through that. So, like I said, I got involved with foil sailability, and they helped me a lot. One of the things that we did was once I got the boat, got involved with them, I decided I need to test myself to see how strong I am to live the dream, to sail off into the sunset and be one of those guys calling into Herb asking for weather forecast details. So one of the first things we did was we did a trip around Ireland. We did it in 9 days, and it was part and parcel of trying to raise awareness for foil sailability. I was obviously disabled, and the skipper of the boat, and we visited all the sailability centres around Ireland, 5 of them in a period of 9 days, and we brought on board other people who were disabled as well. That young fellow you see there, that's his father, and that's Jack, and I can't remember his father's name. He's learning disabled, and for some reason he always wanted to sail, and the father had no notion of sailing, didn't want to sail, was not interested in it, and got roped into doing part of the trip as well. And young Jack was fantastic, no problem at all, really enjoyed it. You know, he saw the life out there, he saw the dolphins and all the rest of it. And the poor dad spent most of his time thrown up into a bucket. So it worked okay. So really, from that, I learned that I could sail the boat. I could make the effort to get further afield. So it's the ubiquitous fast net that we took on the way around. So I decided I would try and prepare the boat then. So spent the next 2 years getting the boat ready. Things like putting on the wind pilot. There's a friend of mine there, drilling it and getting it mounted. Good old German make. It's invaluable to a single-handed sailor, as no doubt everyone's aware. It's a nice piece of kit, but probably I would have gone for, in hindsight now, I think I would go for the hydrovane if I'm ever replacing it, but unlikely that I'll replace it. Had a few issues with it on the way home, but it did the job. That's it fitted. Other things I did on the boat would be replace the batteries. The batteries were quite old, so weren't holding their charge particularly well. So swapped them out and got them all replaced. You can see the difference in size in the lead acid AGMs compared to the lithiums. Lithiums were a great job, you know, a lot of work putting them in, you know, doing the planning the electrics to drive the thing, separating the bus bars out, and but well worth it. They've been supposed to have been in now since 2015. So if I hadn't swapped them out, I'm probably thinking about I would be at the position now where I would have to replace the batteries again, you know, because probably only get about 5 years out of a set of batteries if you're as neglectful as I am, you know. So mine are still going strong. So that was that. So did lots of work on the boat. And decided we'd do a trip again. So we did a trip out round to St Kilda. So again, that was flying the flag for foil sailability as well. We raised a bit of money. We're always about raising money for foil sailability. We're a new charity and nearly skint, you know. So any opportunity we can, we raise a pound or two. What else have I got here? Nice, so that was did that stop? Not good at this. Don't touch it. So that was a wee trip out round St Kilda, and that was probably May or June night time. So that was just really a trial run to see how the boat was coping over a short period of time, to check the autopilot and wind pilot and things like that. So from there, the end of that summer, I continued working on boats and buying spares and getting it all loaded up with whatever I could. And then in October of that year, I headed down the coast, down to Waterford, and waited for a weather window to get across the Bay of Biscay. And a lot of 2017, there was a lot of storms, and I got stuck in Waterford for about 2.5, maybe more, maybe 3 weeks, you know. But probably wasn't stuck, you know. I was enjoying myself in Waterford there, and my mate Ken, who was going to accompany myself and my daughter, he wasn't available for some of the time, for part of the time as well. So that was great. So October 2017, got the window, got across just before the insurance ran out. The insurance ran out, I think it was the 1st of November with GJW. They wouldn't insure me to cross the Atlantic, across the Bay of Biscay after the 1st of November. So we just made it with a couple of days to spare. So we went from Waterford down to Figueira de Foz, and from then on down to the Lisbon, where we saw the second leg start of the Volvo Ocean Race. That was pretty impressive, and I mean, those things can shift. I would love a day out in one of those. After that, we battered on down the coast to Lagos. Spent a wee while in Lagos. I think I might have come home from Lagos briefly, and then on down to Lanzarote. Yeah, Lanzarote spent. I'd run out of. I'm not great with dates. My memory's not good, you know. So spent the time in Lanzarote, went to Playa Blanca, and then went up to Arrecife again, and then we headed back up north again, because it didn't need to be in Trinidad until February 2018. That can't be right. I might be a year out here, you know. So anyway, we went from Lanzarote up to Madeira. Had a great time in Madeira. There was it's a funny place, you know. When I was there, they had a fireworks competition on there, and international teams. You'd hard to believe you would get a competitive sport like a competitive firework displaying. So anyway, right beside where I was moored in the inner harbour there in Funchal. You probably all know it, but a great spot to watch the fireworks. And then from Madeira, went back up to the Azores. Spent a while in the Azores. I must be a year out there, but anyway. I went up to the Azores to San Miguel. Stayed there for a while, and I met another OVNI owner in there. I met Phil Heaton. Came down one day and saw the Belfast, another OVNI with the Belfast registration. So it was a kind of interest to see another, not just another OVNI, but another OVNI from Belfast. That was strange to say the least. When I was up in the Azores, also, whenever I left Ireland, you know, I was under the impression the boat was never completely ready. You know, as you know, whenever you're repairing a boat, you've got all sorts of things to do. You do as much as you can. One of the jobs that I hadn't done was solar. I wanted to put solar panels on it, and I thought that there should be no problem getting solar down in Lagos or Portugal or wherever. But that proved not to be the case. It was a whole handling, you know. It wasn't easy. So I ended up purchasing the solar panels in the UK and getting them shipped out, and got brackets made and got them all fitted. And also, when I was in the Azores, I got a trip home and decided that my arm was getting in the way. I don't know if you noticed in that previous picture of me standing in St Kilda, I had my left arm in a sling. I found when I was on the boat, not just on the boat, but I found in general that it was too awkward and probably dangerous to keep working with the arm. So I made the decision to get it amputated. So I went home from the Azores and got it. My friend's a doctor, a GP, and he was always advising me to get rid of it, you know. And in the best of a Donegal accent, he used to tell me, "Go on, Gary, would you ever get the thing nipped off?" So I went home from the Azores and I got the thing nipped off. And it sort of lightened my load. It's a heavy old piece of kit to be carrying about with you. So that was a success.
Certainly an unusual interval during a cruise, Garry, to just go
I
home and get home and arm amputation.
Yeah. Well, you got to do these. I find it was like I say, it was dangerous on a boat. You know, it would fall out or it would get tangled up in something, but because there was no feeling in it, you didn't know where it was. You know, it could be stuck. And actually, when I was at home prior to this, whenever I was at home, I was on the cooker making something on the stove, and I could smell. I was making bacon or something. I thought, "Oh my God, the bacon's burning! The bacon's burning!" And I looked in the frying pan, and it wasn't the bacon burning. I looked, my hand had fallen out of the sling, and it was on top of the stove, and it was my hand was burning on the stove, and I never noticed. So things like that are awkward, to say the least, you know. So I'm glad I made the decision, got rid of it. So that was it. So when I went back to the Azores, got my solar panels all fitted with the help of a young fella who I met in a restaurant one night. He turned out to be an electrician from Ireland. Him and his girlfriend were out on holiday, so I got him roped into giving me a bit of assistance. So anyway, after got all that sorted out in the Azores. I headed, oh, I got great help just to, I'm on there, the Azores. I got great help from, what is it, Mid-Atlantic Yacht Services. What's his, Duncan?
Duncan Sweet.
Yes, that's right. He was very, very helpful. I was originally going to get the solar panels from him, but they were, the ones he had were Victron, and they weren't the right size. You know, the physical size was difficult, so that's why I got them shipped out from the UK, and he organised all that for me and got them. I never made it. It was running out of time. I never made it up to what island, whatever island he's on. I can't remember the name. So yeah, that's right. He was up in Horta, so I didn't originally intended to go up to Horta and pay him to get them fitted for me, you know. But sort of ran out of time, and then I met this fella from Ireland, and I got sorted. So then after that, I headed back down to Lanzarote again.
And, you've got a couple of questions. Do you want me to interrupt you, or do you want to keep going? It's entirely up to you. So a couple of different people have asked about the wind pilot. They're fascinated to know what the problem was with the wind pilot, because they've both found them highly reliable themselves. What was the issues with the wind pilot?
Well, one of my main, when it was en route, there was no bother coming down across the Atlantic the first time from Trinidad from Lanzarote to Trinidad. It was didn't really have any difficulties with it. But once I got to Trinidad, I didn't really need it after that. So I dismantled it and put it into the technical room, put it into cold storage for 2 years, 2 seasons. And whenever I put it back together again, I might have done something wrong. But one of the main issues was the sargasso weed catching on the paddle, and swinging the paddle up. You know, had to reset that a couple of times. You know, I probably could have tightened the paddle a wee bit more to stop it. You know, but I think it's the whole idea of the paddle being able to turn is to act as a sort of a fusible link, so as that if it catches a log, or if it catches a lot of weed, it does fold up.
Yeah, of course.
That happened a few times on me. Also the small rod that goes down in the center from the push rod, from the vane down to the lever that controls the paddle, is quite light, and I think I might have bent that whenever it was in storage.
Yeah, we've done that too.
So I found that it was only a wee 6 mil rod, and it initially it was rubbing on the inside of the tube that it goes down through, so it was getting a wee bit of resistance there. So that had to be sorted. The other thing was, it appeared to me, whenever I put together, that it appeared to be offset. The paddle appeared to be not fore and aft. It appeared to be turned very, very slightly. So I had to disconnect it again, take it all apart and move it round, just rotate it by one cog. Now, I was in touch with the boss, what's his name, Peter Forthman? Yeah. Of Wind Pilot, and he says I didn't need to, but I went on ahead and I did it anyway. You know, because I didn't like the look of it sitting permanently offset. You know, when I had the vane, you know, perfectly vertical, the paddle was slightly turned. You know, which meant whenever you went from one side to the other on the vane, you didn't get full rotation on the paddle. So that was the other issue I had with it. Plus the other thing is he recommends that it should only be set amidships. You know, he didn't recommend it being offset, whereas the hydrovane are happy enough to have it offset. So just those are the main reasons, not huge reasons. You know, like I'm more than happy with it. Like I say, it did most of the work. You know, 90% of the steering.
Daria Blackwell, who I think will be a name that you know, asks, what modifications did you have to do for your disability to the boat, Garry?
Disabilities. Probably not a huge amount, in all honesty. The things that I changed would have been things to make maintenance a wee bit easier. For example, fitted a fuel, not a fuel, lubrication oil extraction pump permanently, to the sump, with a wee switch on it and a tube with a stop end on it. So is that whenever I want to change the oil, it's easy. It's a lot easier. I've got my maneuverability is not great, so that's all brought out to an easy accessible position at the front of the engine, just a matter of reaching it down. Yep. The other thing was on the engine, I took the oil filter off and put a Mocal remote oil filter on. Again, space is really tight in around the oil filter, and trying to get one of those ratchet straps on the oil filter, it is really a two-handed job, Yeah. So I put a Mocal remote filter on, and then I put the oil filter again, just accessible at the front of the engine. And I'm now in the process of doing the same with the fuel oil filter. I'm bringing that out to the front of the engine as well. So those would have been the main things that I'd done in the engine. But with regards to sailing, modifications to the rig, I didn't do a lot. I made sure that all 3 reefs were brought back to the cockpit. The first reef, and just to save some of the ropes anyway, reef 3 and reef 2, both of them, the slab reef and the 2 ropes. So both of those are brought back. But then on number 1 reef, I do that at the mast and just 1 rope for the clew. So just to reduce that. That's probably about all.
Sorry to have interrupted, Garry.
I bought one of these fenders, one of these sort of bow fenders, like triangular bow fenders, collapsible bow fender. So one of the difficulties whenever you're coming alongside or coming into port, things are a wee bit hectic, So I use the technique of coming in quite slow and then just putting the nose onto the pontoon with the bow fender, and then once it's touching, then I just drive against it to hold the boat in, things like that. So nothing really else.
Grand. Sorry to have interrupted you, Garry, but you did ask me to, so please go ahead.
Okay, so I got to Lanzarote, enjoyed Lanzarote, and then we departed again. Not a clue on the date. It was after Christmas. It was January sometime. We departed Lanzarote, and you could do a whole story on that. We departed Lanzarote and got to Trinidad in time for the Mardi Gras festival. I'd been in Trinidad a couple of times before on big ships, but I always managed to miss the Mardi Gras. So this time I made a point of getting there. So that was Waterford. Let's go back the way. Yeah, that was my setting off point. So okay, what the hell is that? It's on its side. I don't know how to. I've had to learn video editing techniques, and as you can see, I'm not great at it.
I thought all of you served like that, actually, Garry. I thought that was the way they were designed.
So,
bye!
So that was us, 3 of us, myself, my daughter, and a good friend called Ken, setting off for Trinidad. We weren't part of the ark or anything. We just did our own thing, The only other thing was I did a lot of practicing on driving the boat myself, because coming into harbour, it's difficult for anyone really. It's a stressful old time. Whenever you're coming in with just the one hand, trying to operate the wheel and the throttle is not easy. So I did a brave bit of practicing with that, and reversing up, I found an easy technique was to actually use the bow thruster to steer the boat whenever you're coming in reverse. So that was just a wee trick that I learned or picked up on. Well, that's yeah, that was us going across. So we did trade wind sailing. Really, it was we never had any great problems or difficulties on the way over. Just fairly steady. Run of the mill, dropped the main, and just used the new head sails on the main. We didn't reset all the time. Checked to make sure that the water maker and all was working, and put new filters on that, or new membranes on that before we left. Right, and that was us. Whenever we arrived at the other side, my wife and other daughter joined us out there. So not sure where that is. That's in Trinidad in Scotland Bay, I think. So yeah, so we made it. So when I got there, you know, like I still had my dreams of going further afield, you know, and my wife enjoyed the Caribbean so much. We ended up spent 2 seasons there. Or yeah, I'd originally intended going straight on from there, but we did spend the hurricane season there, so that was July or June to November. So we pottered about the Caribbean, but really, in all honesty, I didn't really know where I was going from there. I didn't know where I was going, if I was going to go down South America way. I've never been to Brazil, so I was toying the idea of going down to Brazil. I'd been to Guyana way many years ago, and fancy going down to Guyana as well. So that was an option, and going on down to South Africa. Never been in Cape Town, so I always fancied going down that. So I had the notion of going down the down past Brazil and Guyana and all. But anyway, we stayed on another season in the Caribbean, and I sort of kind of decided I would go on to sort of Curacao and Colombia. That was my intention, in Panama. That was my intention. Right, how do I close that down? Don't know how to close this down now. Here we go. Escape, there we go. Not easy. Where am I? Bear with. Documents. Okay, so a bit different from sailing around St Kilda in the Western Isles. You know, it's a champagne sailing. That's a friend of mine there in the dinghy there. One of the hardest things, people are asking about the modifications for the boat to make it easier for myself. One of the hardest things for me to do is picking up a mooring. It's difficult, and lucky enough that fellow there that's Nick Wright. I met him in Lanzarote in Arrecife. He has a Moody carabiner, and him and his wife crossed probably about a couple of weeks after me, and they went up to Antigua and did the crossing that direction. But you know, like I say, like picking up a mooring buoy by yourself with one hand is not easy. I usually try and anchor, and but I think that was there was no space in the anchorage, and I had to pick up. But I think that was one of the parks. So he was giving me a hand, as you can see from there. I must have been there. Anyway, I think I took the wind pilot off in Trinidad, I think. So you can see the rear end of the boat there is bare. There's no wind pilot on there. It's gone, taken off. And let's see. Yeah. I think that's in that same place. That might be Tobago Keys, I think. Swimming with the turtles. So basically, I was enjoying myself, going nowhere without any stress. You know, I met a lot of people when I'm out there, and a lot of them were on like a box ticking exercise. You know, they were flying around the flying around the circumnavigation course. But I was a wee bit more laid back, a wee bit slower. And I tell you what, I would love to be back there now. It's the weather here has been brutal this last few days. You know, back to the nice warm water. Anyway, so that's Tobago Keys. So I was basically swanning about the Caribbean with no great time frame. You know, a bit of fishing here, nice people along the way, and if they were going somewhere, I would go somewhere. Sometimes I had friends out with. Sometimes my wife was there. Sometimes I was on my own. It was a mixture. You know, I wasn't single-handed all the time, and just enjoying myself. It's the wee graveyard up at the top end of Carriacou. It's all getting washed away. Nobody really sort of looks after it, and just a very, very strange sight to see a graveyard like that so close to the water. Not even a clue where that is. I should do. I recognize the bridge, but the wildlife was wonderful, and really enjoyed the Caribbean. And there's another OCC Seamanship Award winner there on my left-hand side. That's Dustin. Dustin's nearly completed his circumnavigation. I was talking to him there the other day. He lost his arm in a similar motorcycle accident, and he had the added benefit of losing his leg as well. So and that fellow to my right is a fellow called Leon Boneless Samuels, and he lost his hand in I think it was a machete. I think it was one of those situations where he should have been listening instead of talking. So we were a pretty sight when you see the three of us sitting drinking far too many beers for people who are not in the best of shape. Anyway, like I say, Dustin, he's nearly finished his circumnavigation. He's in Panama at the moment. He's hoping to go on further, go through the canal in May time. Me and him had originally planned to meet up in Colombia. He was going up to the east coast of the States. He had some friends up there, Newport, Rhode Island or something. I didn't particularly want to go up to the States, so I was going to potter about the Caribbean and then head over to Curacao, Aruba, Bonaire, that direction, and then on to Cartagena, with a view to going through the canal on. Well, I should have been through the canal now, but because we stayed on another season out in the Caribbean, we were very late in the Caribbean. You know, I think the arc goes over in November. So as they can have like one season in the Caribbean and then batter on to Panama thereafter. But my main gig was I wanted to see the Mardi Gras in February. So we were a bit late, so I stayed on another season, and thank God I did, because all the difficulties that the yachts are currently having out in the Pacific, it's not easy. You know, like, getting into anywhere out there, it's problematic. I've seen something on the list there that things may be changing in the near future, but still not easy. Anyway, that's that. Oh yeah, some of the wonderful shopping centres that you get in you get out in the Caribbean. You know, it can be interesting going shopping. Not like Europe at all. Going into your supermarket. Oh, it's a this has got to be the. I love this place. This has got to be the finest dinghy park in the world, without a doubt. Going underneath through the wee bridge, and that's in Union Island.
I think you may have not seen much because of the sun.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
There's your man driving. Oh my god, oh my god.
There we go. Yeah, this is interesting. Again, talking about the wildlife. This was in Trinidad. I'd never seen before. That's bats fishing.
You still sleeping outside the night? I don't know whether that mosquito net is strong enough to protect me.
Bigger net.
You can't make considerably bigger nets.
So bats, right? See, maintenance goes on again. Whenever you're single-handed, you have to do the best you can, no matter how hard it is. The jobs still need done, you know. So everything just takes a lot longer when you do it with a single hand. But you can work ways around doing most jobs, you know. So that's the easiest job there. So not even sure where that is. That's Grenada Yacht Club there. So spent a bit of time in Grenada. That was nice. There was a lovely bar manager in the yacht club. I don't know anyone who's been out there. A fella called Coleman, and he really made you feel welcome. A very easygoing character, and just a proper gentleman. And had great memories of my time in Grenada. And we left there and went on up the islands. And I heard about 6 weeks later or 2 months later or something like that. Anyway, his house was broken into, and he was stabbed and murdered. And it was awful. Anybody who's been out to Grenada would know him. And terrible loss. That's that. Carrickoo again, what I've got here. Oh yes, I enjoyed the best. I seem to have spent my time in the Caribbean, going from the festival to festival. That's into where I'm not. The next day there was cars driving on that road. Just a bit all the sand. And I don't know again. Sometimes it's a terrible environment, really, you know, right. Again, I didn't get this rotated. Martinique, and I've been struggling with my little visitor. The fishing boat was in. Sorry about that. I should have had that. Managed to find my four-legged friend, but he's left a bit of a smell about the place. That's wrong. As you can see, I've had to strip everything out of the. I'll have to explain what I was doing there. I was trying to show. That's where I found when I was up in Martinique. I've washed it down 3 times. I heard a bit of rustling on board, and bleach. It turned out that I had a rat that had come on board, and it took me It took me a week to find it.
It's been showery today, so I can't even leave the hatch open.
What actually happened, I'll get over
Trying to
that.
get a
You
wee bit
can
of
really
air.
see that. No, it's not in there. What actually happened was I still take a bit of medication for pain control, and the rat had got into the drawer where I keep my my medication, and it's quite strong medication, and it feasted on the it feasted on the codeine and pregabalin and oxycodone, and he died. And the smell in the boat was absolutely disgusting. It took a long time to get rid of it. It took me a week to find him because I had to take all the cushions out of the boat to try and locate the bugger. It was actually underneath one of the drawers in the forward cabin, and eventually got rid of him. But I had to wash and sterilize the woodwork where I found him. Ended up burning loads and loads of joss sticks and stuff to get the smell away of him. He did a bit of damage to one of my sails, one of my light wind. I've got a Doyle UPS light weather sail, and he got into that and he chewed through about 4 or 5 layers of that. So I had to get that repaired in Martinique as well. The other little visitor I had were these boys here, the weevils. I had an infestation of weevils. I know you're supposed to, bay leaves are supposed to stop them, but anyway, I ended up with infestation of weevils at some stage, and I had to throw out a lot of rice, and eventually found where they were living. They were living inside a box of spaghetti, a box of pasta, and but they'd managed to escape out of that. And again, there was another. Jesus, it must have took me 2 weeks' work getting rid of them bad boys, but I got rid of them eventually. It's another carnival up in Martinique, France. I made a point of getting the calendar, finding out where the festivals were, and made sure I was tied up or moored somewhere fairly close to the carnivals. So I got to a lot of it. That's it, is it? Yeah. Anyway, after doing most of the islands, I decided I needed a new outboard, and the cheapest place to get the outboard is up in St. Martin. So I bought that 8 horsepower 2-stroke, which you can't buy 2 strokes at home. So I bought the 8 horsepower 2-stroke out there. You can get tax free, so that's why I went up to St. Martin. That's how I ended up at St. Martin on St. Patrick's Day. And when everything closed down, it wasn't St. Patrick's Day. I just bought the engine the day before, and I actually had intended to go back down to Dominica. I had friends down there on another boat, and that's where I was going to go. But on the Saturday of St. Patrick's Day, they pulled down the shutters in St. Martin, and they went into lockdown. And it was a serious lockdown. There was no messing about. You know, you weren't. All the shops closed for a full 2 weeks, and if you hadn't had food available, that was tough luck. You know, they didn't make any allowance. They didn't leave, say, one shop open or whatever. They just closed everything down for a full 2 weeks. Prime Minister was on there, and she says, "Listen, this is a hurricane island, and you should have 2 weeks supplies in your house," and that was it. You know, obviously the people on boats were okay. You know, we are usually pretty well prepared for that. So that was that. I think what I'm showing there is I was out at anchor in St. Martin. I wasn't in through the wasn't in the inner lagoon through the bridge. So when I was getting fueled up and stuff, you had to put the dinghy in, and you had to do all your transfer by dinghy, obviously. And again, whenever you're single-handed and you're trying to get stocked up for a transatlantic passage, that's not easy as well, because there's only you can only carry a certain amount of stuff with your hand, with your handbag. So I would take like a wee trolley up to the shop, fill it, come back, put it in the dinghy it out. And I found this was the easiest way to get the stuff back on board. Just hoist the dinghy up to the side rail and then get out and then lift the stuff in out of the dinghy, rather than putting it out of the dinghy onto the stern deck and then from the stern up. Just a simpler method. That's all I'm showing there. But yeah.
Okay, autopilot again. It was decoupled about 2 years ago whenever I first arrived in Trinidad. It's been languishing below ever since. Put it back there yesterday, the day before, and I noticed that the steering arm here was at a bit of an angle. So I think what actually happened was we had a problem with it just outside Trinidad, and this lower arm here, this lower tube, came loose and slid down on top of that bracket there. So it looks like it's jumped one of these cogs here. Whether you can see it or not. Right, so I'm going to try and release it, move it along a cog and put it all back together again. And I'm using this block and tackle, these two block and tackles, to lower it over the side to get it mounted on that bracket there again. Right, see you later. Yeah, so it's a heavy old piece of kit there to be manhandling by yourself. It's not just well, it's reasonably heavy, you know, but it's an awkward piece of kit, you know, to try and maneuver in the back of a boat. But anyway, I managed it. You got to just do everything so much slowly. That's some of the food that I got stocked up on. Probably overdid it in food, if truth be told. I had to. Initially, I was thinking I was totally paranoid about the virus. So I thought initially I was going to need enough food to do a week's quarantine on the boat before I leave, because you wouldn't really want. I didn't want to be in the situation where I sailed from St. Martin, and a week later I found out that I was suffering from the virus. So I needed an extra week's food for that. And then there was nothing clear about what would happen whenever you arrived in the UK or Ireland. You know, you might have had to do another 2 weeks quarantine there. So then I had to allocate enough food for 2 weeks there as well. So it all, like I say, I ended up buying way too much food. That's me I don't really have a decent way of holding the lockers down. I didn't particularly want to drill a hole through the veneer and put strings on it. So I put the food all in those central lockers there and just put a big aluminium bar down across it. At least it was something. The floorboards aren't locked down, so if you did go upside down or on your side, they would open. But at least it was something that was done. Looks like a blank screen there. This is wrong now. Bear with me. Oh dear. Oh, right, well, that's gone. Right. Anyway, so I spent full 2 weeks. Full 2 weeks on the
without going ashore. Then after 2 weeks, the lockdown sort of lightened up a wee bit, and you were able to get ashore 3 days a week. The shops were open 3 days a week, so you could go ashore and get the supplies that way. But I must have spent nearly 2 months at anchor in St. Martin, really trying to decide what to do, because everything was, as we're all aware, everything's all locked down. You don't know where to go. There was a boat that came into the anchorage, and with its mainsail, roller reefing's mainsail, jammed, and about a third of it's still out. Its roller reefing headsail was shredded. You could see that, and they were calling on the VHF to the Dutch Coast Guard, and the Dutch Coast Guard just wasn't replying, and they were saying that they had they crossed the Atlantic, and they had suffered severe damage to the boat sails, and they only had a limited amount of fuel, maybe only another couple of hours left of fuel. They had no gas. Their food was virtually nil, and they had very, very little water. And the Dutch Coast Guard were not interested whatsoever. They offered them no assistance, and other people on boats in the anchorage in the lagoon could hear them on the VHF, and they were telephoning the Coast Guard to try and contact them to see if anything could be done, and they weren't interested. Eventually, the French Coast Guard, which is the other half of the island, called them and told them to come round to the French side, and the French looked after them. But St. Martin wasn't very helpful whatsoever. So, like I say, I was there the guts of 2 months, hoping maybe that things would lighten up, and I could go on to Curacao and Colombia, but there was just no way. It just wasn't happening, and I had to get home. My daughter was getting married, as I say, so I had to make the decision. What the hell do you do now? So I decided that was it. Bite the bullets. Got enough food on board, and prepared the boat as best I could, and hit the road. Right. Been working for about the last hour, and I thought the bloody camera was on the record. She didn't capture any of it. Anyway, I was doing all the preparations for getting away. Even though you think you got everything done, when it actually comes to lifting the anchor and heading off, there's still a million other things to do. The snubber on the anchor, which is probably about 15 or 20 meter long nylon rope. It's been down since it's been attached to the anchor. What the purpose of the snubber is to give a wee bit of elasticity on the anchor chain to stop you stop it jerking. Just acts like a big spring, and gives you a wee bit more safety. But anyway, it's been down for 2 months, so whenever I come to disconnect it to get ready to lift the anchor, of course it's all snarled up, it's all, I think the technical term is, it's all a bunch of bastards, and it's all encrusted with seaweed and beasties, and so I had to get it all cut loose and stuff, so that all took a lifetime. So I got all that done. So I'm near enough ready to up anchor. So I'm just having a rest because I've been working
did a bit more tidying up down below, and me bloody bananas again. I went and got more bananas there yesterday, and they don't last at all. I went to lift them up to get at something, and they all fell off the stake. Damn nuisance. Stake, whatever, the hand. So I'll have to eat them all fairly quickly before they all go off. So anyway, I'm just taking a few minutes to myself before I disappear. That's my wind vane there. I don't know if you can see it. Wind vane, that fella there does all the steering.
Is that frozen?
90% of the steering whenever we get away from coastal waters.
Is that frozen? I think it has. Simon, yeah?
Yes, Gary, it's the video is frozen. I think perhaps we didn't press the optimize video button to kind of
Wind vane, that
shrink
fella
it.
there does all the steering. Wind vane, that fella there does all the steering.
Try it again. Bloody thing. I hate computers.
Right, that's a bit awkward by yourself. I've got my wee remote control to do the anchor, and theoretically I could just stand here and raise the anchor and moor off into a wee bit of space. Unfortunately, life's not that simple. The anchor chain doesn't. So
Come on.
what I do is I go up forward until I get most of the chain in, until I'm about 10 metres. I got 6 metres of water there. So what I do is I'll go forward, bring the chain in
Come on.
and topple it as it comes into the anchor locker to try and stop it all snarling up. If you do everything from here, it will all just keep coming in, but it doesn't always topple over into the chain locker correctly, and then it can jam at the inopportune moment, shall we say. So we'll get the majority of it in.
Wonder, should I try stopping and restarting the share screen? What do you think, Simon?
I think your computer's struggling with the processing there, Gary. You probably got something going on in the background, but we've got most of it, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Damn nuisance.
I recognise your remote control. We have exactly the same thing for our windlass, actually.
Well, I tell you, well, I've got
30 quid as opposed to about 400, I think.
It's a big. It's a great help. I put one onto the windlass. Well, that's the one that you can see there in the plastic bag.
Yeah.
And then I put another one on. I have an electric winch.
Yeah.
And I put the other one on the electric winch.
Yeah. Yeah. I think probably Gary, it's it's quite a big video file. It's 1 point something gigabytes, and I'm just wondering if that's stretching the capacity of the connection. So maybe skip the video and if you can.
There.
Well by itself. So anchor, and theoretically I could just stand here and raise the anchor and motor off into a wee bit of space. Unfortunately, life's not that simple. The anchor chain doesn't stow particularly well by itself, so what I do is I go up forward until I get most of the chain in, until I'm about 10 metres. I've got 6 metres of water there, so what I do is I'll go forward, bring the chain in and topple it as it comes into the anchor locker to try and stop it all snarling up. If you do everything from here, it will all just keep coming in, but it doesn't always topple over into the chain locker correctly, and then it can jam at the inopportune moment, shall I say. So we'll get the majority of it in.
That's not good, Simon.
As I say, I'll leave about 10
Not to worry,
metres out.
Gary, just
then we'll do
yeah,
the
we'll
last
skip the
10
video
metres.
and head on.
I'm back here when I'm at the controls for the engine, because there's quite a strong wind. There's 15. No, not
Gary,
quite,
somebody's
15
asking
knots, so
what's
blowing
the
us down
brand
to
name
15.
of the remote control. I think
that's the
we bought ours from.
There we go.
It's a remote controller for a 4x4 winch. I think ours is. Is that where you got yours from?
Yeah, it was. It's on eBay. I think you get 2 for the price of 1. You know, so
Yeah. And they're cheap as chips, aren't they? £30 or something
cheapest
like
chips,
that.
and they're dead simple to wire up as well. There only is a couple of wires on it.
Yeah.
We got a head scratching. Get it?
Gary, do you just want to move on and take some questions, or?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, well, I'll bring some questions in.
We're going.
Oh, we're going. Oh, there you go.
Okay. I have no idea what's going on here.
Okay,
I do apologise.
that's no problem. Don't worry. It's great to see you doing stuff that we just take for granted with, 2 hands, just using the technology, using the gear, and
I think we've got vision but no sound now.
not to worry.
Oh, it's hectic. So really, all I'm doing there is I've swapped over the remote controls now, and I've got the main halyard onto the electric winch. The electric winch is my main man, and I've got another one of those controllers then to do the electric winch. So I'm going to spin around head to wind here and get the head sail up. Get the main up before I head on out. It's a lot easier to do it obviously in the shelter of the bay rather than out in the trade winds, out in the shelter of the bay.
Yeah, it's a good cost-effective adaptation for sailing literally single-handed. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and like I say, whenever you buy them on eBay, you do get a 2-for-1 deal. So
when I post, I'll post this on the forum anyway. So I'll post a link to the to where you get the remote controls from.
Definitely no sound.
Yeah, we'll just talk over it, Gary. It's fine.
I'm going to try it again. It's annoying me.
It's easier to do this here, right here than out wherever you got.
So it looks like you've got to get vision, more sound, but not both.
Yeah, it's a bandwidth issue, I think, isn't it? It was a very big file to stream, so it was like 1.2 gigs or something.
It was, yeah. I'm for 50%. The whole thing is dependent on that. Oh. I thought I was doing well by not putting them into a PowerPoint to try and reduce the amount of processing required.
Sure.
Chloe, I don't know whether you can hear me or not. That's me just left St. Martin. There. That's Phillipsburg, the capital. And then behind is Simpsons Bay, yes. They're skint. They need the money. It's not happening.
We got most of it.
I
Well
do
done.
apologise. This is
No, well done, well done, well done.
right. We just later on, once we got it out of the bay, with the painting. See there, your foot comes into play a lot whenever you're unfurling the sail. You just use your foot to hold the furling line. That Genoa sheet that I'm using there, so I hadn't replaced it whenever I left the UK. It was in reasonable condition. Whenever I was sitting off in this passage, I was aware that it had deteriorated. The sun had got to it. So whenever I was in Martinique, I bought a set of spare sheets, and I had them on board to replace them. So where's the Genoa sheet? So I replaced the Genoa sheet with the one that I bought in Martinique. And it turned out the weave, the outside of the sheet was too wide, and whenever you were winching in, the stripper on the top of the self-tailor catched the weave, the rope. I've never seen that before. So I put the new rope on, and then I discovered that it was good. So then I had to go back to ended up using that to take the big rope off. So single-handed pulling, a bit of help. Others at endless, thank God. Use your leg and hang on with whatever you can.
It certainly demonstrates just how difficult it is to do something simple like tying a bowline. Yeah?
Yes, everything that you do, it's so much longer.
And hanging on at the same time.
Yep.
Very difficult. Yeah.
It's a real. Because you're single-handed, you you really do depend on the harness.
Yeah.
That's quite a short harness that I use, and I've got a new system using using jack lines on deck on inboard of that, so as that they physically can't go over the side shorter tether.
Yeah.
I'm not actually using it there, but it's a system that I'm only really putting in place now. Anyway, that's the job done. As you can see, not easy.
Well done.
Right. I'm aware of the time, and I've slowed everything down here, so I'm going to.
It's coming up to 9:30. Very good.
Yeah. Right. Try that autopilot. Okay, it's Saturday morning, about midday, 11 o'clock or so. The way the wind was, I was heading up towards New York, so I decided to after the forecast came in, I decided to take a tack. I was trying to get up over the top of the high pressure, but we were just getting so badly set to the west, and the wind that I'd hoped would fill in from the southeast didn't appear, so I've just bitten the bullet and tacked. It's about 2 hours ago. Whenever I tacked, put the wind pilot back on again. Hasn't been good in light weather conditions, and like I said previously, it's never good in light conditions. But I couldn't get it to settle at all. Just couldn't get it. I don't know what's on this particular tack. For some reason I can't get it to steer at all, the wind pilot. So I was going to investigate that. So I switched the electric autopilot on. It's just a matter of pressing the button and it kicks in automatically. And it bloody won't steer either. Typical. So I've spent about 2 hours there now, tried resetting it. Like the old Windows trick, switch it off, switch it on again, all that. I went into the calibration settings and checked all the calibration, make sure there's nothing there. There's a thing you can do with these autopilots, it's a Raymarine ST6000 or something. There's a calibration mode, and sometimes it loses its marbles and you've got to recalibrate the compass. So I tried to recalibrate, and that involves slowly sailing a big circle. So fired up the engine and made a start of the turn. About 3/4 of the way through the turn it says turning too fast, and sometimes that happens. You get a wee bit too eager to get the job done. So I slowed it down, slowed the turn again, tried it again, came round, same again. Boat turning too fast, and as I looked at the compass associated with the autopilot, whenever we get round to this particular quadrant, it basically takes off and goes very, very quick, whereas the actual magnetic compass, the compass that you see on ships, the one that sits there in the binnacle, it was near enough rock solid. So there's something wrong with the compass. So I've been down in and checked all the connections at the autopilot end, which is in the aft locker, and can't see anything wrong there. Connections all look good, there's nothing disconnected or appears incorrect. So it's a bit of a bummer. So I've got a spare fluxgate compass, which is in the aft cabin. So I'm going to have to go in there and see if I can find it. I've just had to sit down here because I've been fighting with these bloody cushions again. Everything was stored in that aft cabin, you know.
all the bloody cushions plus the hatches and all the junk of the day, so I've got half of it moved out. I'm about to go in again. So at the moment I've got the engine on, and it's not too bad about steering a straight line by itself in flat calm water without any autopilot. I have to go up and turn the wheel every now and again, you know. So it's not something that you normally come across as two autopilots failing all at the same time. I could have done without this. Like, I'm not even halfway across here. It's a long way to go without an autopilot. Can't do it without an autopilot, you know, but it means steering all the time, and whenever I need to rest, basically stopping the boat. Damn nuisance. Right, back to it. That was me having to rewire the new compass because I couldn't access the old compass. There was no block. That was me back up steering because you're having to. I wanted to keep going as well. So anyway. Okay, that's the autopilot back working again. It's been a long day. Totally wrecked. Absolutely bit. So now, time I guess you tempted to go back on the medication. Just so sore. I had a spare compass. I think I showed it to you. I don't know what if I do, what I didn't. Anyway, put the new compass directly onto the autopilot inside the stern locker. You have to climb into the thing. I did one of those stop motion videos, maybe you've seen it, I don't know. But it's a hell of an awkward place to be working. Even if you're two-handed, it's bloody awkward. And there's 5 wires that need to go into a terminal block. I'm trying to put a wire into a terminal block. Just the one hand. And I did. It's one of these spring-loaded terminals, you know, so you got to press the wheel lever back, and then in the hole underneath it you put the wire in. So I try to hold the screwdriver in the palm of my hand, and then use my fingers underneath to try and manoeuvre the wire up into the hole where it's supposed to go. You know, it takes me 10 times longer. You know, a two-handed person then would do that in 2 seconds, you know. 5 wires, fish, they're all done. Takes me half an hour. And you have to do a mental thing to try and not lose the plot altogether. That's not easy. Anyway, it's back up and running. Seems to be working fine. And I went the extra mile. I wasn't certain was it the wiring or cables or what. So I put the old compass back on again. Once I got the new compass working, it took 2 attempts to get the new compass working. Once I got the new compass working, I then put the old compass back in again, just to make sure the compass was faulty and it wasn't actual something to do with the brains of the unit, because it's possible and it's still possible that there's a problem in the actual control unit, the brains. but I think it was the compass. Put the new compass in and it works, put the old compass in, it stops working, put the new compass in, it's back working again. That'll do me. I'm motoring today. It's still very light winds, and the only way I could keep the boat sort of reasonably steady while I worked was to put the engine on. Of course, every now and again I had to jump up and spin the wheel to get the boat back on course as well. So this all kicked off this morning, and I tacked it over onto the other tack. Found that my wind pilot couldn't handle the other tack for some reason, so I'll investigate that tomorrow. I'm not doing it today. I was supposed to make bread today. Didn't get that done. This is my third day, so I was supposed to run the generator, make water, charge the batteries, and I was going to make a stew on the electric hob at the same time. None of that got done. Well, at least I'm making electricity through whenever the engine's running, it charges the batteries. So the batteries will be fully charged, and I don't really need the water. I did some washing there the other day, and I rinsed the washing in seawater, so I wanted to rinse them in fresh water. So I was going to do that, but it's not an issue. Bread was probably the main one. Still got a bit of I don't know what it is, cinnamon bread, or one of the other folks gave it to me before I left. It seems to be keeping quite well. Very sweet, but it's very nice. Anyway, that'll do me. I'm going to try and get some sleep now. Whenever you're doing what they call polyphasic sleeping, this is the time of the night, just around about dusk, when you're not supposed to sleep. And I think there's something in your genes way back to your Neanderthal times, you know, just about dusk. It's a dangerous old time. It's like the body, according to the research that they did on polyphasic sleep, dusk isn't the time to have a nap, but I have to touch it. Right, catch you later. Right, so that was my autopilot issues that I had. So it turned out that the difficulty I had with the wind pilot was the Sargasso weed had hit the rudder, or hit the paddle, and it moved it up slightly, and it just didn't have the strength to turn. Wind vane repaired. Let's see now. I'm conscious of the time here, so let's see now. One of the other problems I had during the passage was the electric winch, and I depend heavily on the electric winch on the port side, so it had to be it was flat calm, as you can see, not a breath of wind. And we're going absolutely nowhere. Getting hacked off with this now. No wind. Not a breath. Doing 0.8 of a knot. That is 0.8 of a knot. I don't think I could even walk that slow. That's how slow that is. Jeez. Anyway, it is what it is. What we can do, you can fire up the engine and motor, but you'll be motoring for days and days and days. Just have to.
This is in the Azores High, is it?
Mental thing, you know.
Yeah.
Just have to deal with it. Anyway, it's a lovely day, and it's a wonderful opportunity. Oh, absolutely wonderful opportunity. I've got two winches. There, this one here, it's a Harkin 44, and his mate on the other side, does all the work. He's electric, and he's not playing ball. He's getting a wee bit decrepit, a bit like myself. So I'm going to see if I can take the gubbins out of this. Gubbins, that's the technical term. Take the gubbins out of this manual one and swap it into the electric one. And I'm fairly certain they're exactly the same. Fairly certain.
That's where I made the mistake. It's like fairly certain.
All the only real difference is that, there we go, look at that. Sweet, isn't it? Right. For some reason, this one here is all dried up. I serviced these myself about 2 months ago. And you can still see there's still plenty of oil and all on this. But this one here, you take it apart, it's bone dry. I know it does all the work, but I hadn't expected it to be bone dry. There you go. Right. You always say whenever you're doing these things, wear protective gloves, keep your hands clean. And there you are. You can see that I have been using protective gloves at some stage, but it's usually when my wife is around to give me a hand to put the damn things on. Have you ever tried to put on one of those gloves all by your lonely, all by yourself? Huh? I mean, it's just not going to happen. Bastard. So, right, I'm not going to video this whole thing. I'll put it on stop motion here. But as you can see, these are the bearings. They come off. Comme ça. But this is the bits in here that I've got difficulty with here. These gears, the wee shaft that goes in through there is badly worn on the electric one. So I'm going to try and swap this section here and maybe the gears as well from there over to there. Right, I'll put you on stop motion.
I didn't really have to do this job, truth be told, you know, but...
So here's the problem. As you can see, I've got this is the electric one that I've got stripped down. And you can see this hold at the very bottom of the screen. It's rounded, elongated. And the one to its right, the other shaft sits in. It's also worn, mangled as well. So that's not a good situation. I might have to swap that whole base plate round then. Right. There we go. I'll take a look at the other one. Right, well, plan B, put it all back together again. It's not going to work. That central orifice there on the electric one is wider than it is over on this manual one. There. Oh. Life's never simple. Right, bugger it. Back together again. I've got the manual one put back together again. It seems to rotate. I haven't broke it, so that's always good. Nothing worse than doing a job and finding up you've made things worse. So that's back to where it was. And on this one, the damaged one, I've taken a Coke tin and I've cut a wee slither of tin out of it, and I'm going to use that as a shim into these wee sockets here to see if I can tighten them up a wee bit. So that's my plan B. Well, it's probably plan C or D actually, but there we go. Okay, that's the winch back together. Well, nearly. Well, just need to put the lid on it, that's all. I've got the wee shim in there and shim in below it, and those seem to be, they're not rattling about as much. They're probably a wee bit stiff on the shaft, but if it gets me home, it'll do. That's as good as it gets. And I forgot a bit. There's always bits left over, and I've got one bit left over. Come on, you bastard. This is it. Proof of the pudding. You little beauty. Right, so I've got that. So basically, the rest of the I only get that's 21:48. Right, I've got loads more videos, but
we probably ought to be thinking about winding up, Garry. Because
yeah, that's just what I'm thinking. I should have prepared a wee bit better. I think I could have shortened some of those.
Yeah, but it demonstrates fantastically the difficulty of doing simple jobs. Well, I won't say that what you did to the winch was simple, but made ever more complicated by doing it single-handed in every respect. You had to sail single-handed back from the Caribbean, presumably because you couldn't get crew out there. Is that right, Garry?
Yeah, that's correct. And there was no other means. You know, you couldn't. The airport was closed down when I first arrived in St. Martin. The aircraft were coming in every 15-20 minutes to Princess Juliana. I'm sure airport. Yeah. I'm sure we've all seen the YouTube videos of the people standing on the beach as the big aircraft come in over the top of them. You know, so they were flying in there every 20 minutes. It wasn't particularly nice anchorage whenever I first arrived. But after the COVID kicked in, the aircraft, you know, just
closed down.
You got one aircraft every 2 days, you know. So there was just no way of flying people out. Everything was shut down, and obviously the hurricane season was rapidly approaching, and you know I was tempted to try and head on down south, but my gut feeling was that things weren't going to change quickly.
Yeah, sure.
You know, like I could have. You know, there was people there hanging on. Says, "Oh, the Trinidad powerboats in Trinidad will open any day now." You know, it's just there's plenty of Jesse James is on the case, and he's pressurising the government, and the country depends so much on the income from the yachting industry down there. Trinidad's bound to open. You know, so I was hanging on and hoping that maybe something would change. But in my heart of hearts, I knew this wasn't going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah.
And I probably could have got myself home by some means, you know. There were repatriation flights and things, but then you get the difficulty of
what do you do with the boat? You're
leaving your boat, you know, on the hard in you know, right in the middle of the hurricane belt, you know. So
you got some comments coming in. Richard Fowkes writes, I was sailing today as a volunteer with my local sailability group.
Oh,
And
very
I'm
good.
just so humbled and impressed with how Garry and others cope with their setbacks and do things that I struggle to do with all my limbs. Yeah, no, lots of comments coming in, Garry. I'm trying to bring some people in to ask some questions. Mike, whoops, I think I just muted you by mistake, Mike. Mike Brooks, do you want to come in and ask your question?
Hey, Garry. Yeah, I was just wondering about your time in Trinidad and if you had any work done here. Who did you have work done by? Was it good work?
In Trinidad, not. I don't think. No, I didn't get any work done in Trinidad. If truth be told, you know, I was too busy. I was too busy partying all the time, so I was up jumping about and throwing shapes, as they say. But no, I didn't get. Because we didn't really have any difficulties on the Tradewind passage, you know, from Lanzarote across. You know, it was like a champagne sailing, really. You know, so there wasn't any real damage to the boat apart from a bit of wear and tear. We did have one problem coming across about maybe 80 miles from Tobago. There's the soundings go down to about 100 meters. And of course, what the first thing you look out for whenever you go down to 100 meters is fishing buoys and fishing floats and stuff like that. And 3 o'clock in the morning with the 25 knots of trade wind behind you, I just come on watch and the boat ground to a halt and sort of rounded up. And Jesus, what the hell is this? And shone a torch over the side, and I could see a big 3-4 inch hawser, you know, running from underneath the boat out to what looked like a white transit van, you know, about 20 meters away. So lucky enough, we were running downwind, and so I had the keel lifted up anyway. And just thought about it, and it had to be something caught in the rudder. So I went and used the wee hydraulic pump, and I pumped the rudder up, and bish bosh, that cleared the rope. A huge big float came up, and away we went again, you know. But we didn't have any major difficulties or anything that needed sort of professional assistance in Trinidad. But I believe power boats to be, and you know, it seems to have a good reputation from everybody I've spoken to down there.
Sorry, Mike, go ahead. Yeah.
What they seem to have in the actual truth is always different, isn't it?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said what they seem to have in the actual truth is always different, isn't it?
Oh yes. Yeah. Well, you never know till you pays your money and you take your chance. Unfortunately, that's the nature of it.
Oh yeah.
Judith Jacobson says, well done, very inspiring talk. Thank you very much. Barbara and Thierry say, thanks for a great talk. Signing off because they're an hour ahead of us in Switzerland. Marie Wilkes says, thanks, great, inspiring talk. So lots of good feedback there, Garry. Do you want to just unshare your screen so that we can get you your full frame? There's a few more Q&As there.
Stop share. We got
it. Stop share. There you go. You've got the full facial. Phil Heaton's online. You've mentioned him. Phil, do you want to come in and voice your question? You've typed it up, but I can bring you in. Let me find you on the screen. Phil Heaton, allowed to talk. Phil, you should be able to go ahead.
Yeah, hi Garry. Just wanted to say, seeing how you did it, especially working the boat with just one arm and doing all that maintenance. You've actually talked to us about some of it in the past, but seeing it how you did it is just amazing. And I think two things I want to say. One is you are absolutely an archetypal Northern Ireland man. Your self-deprecation and all power to you. And secondly, Garry, I've got a very, very important question. I think everybody who's listening really needs to take this on board. Garry, have you got any comprehension whatsoever why anybody would have a boat other than an ovni?
Where did I see that one coming from?
Yes, we are a wee bit we do go a wee bit over the top with our love of the ovnis. You know, it was always my dream boat. I used to go to the boat show every year, and with my mates, we used to do a lot of round the cans racing, and did a bit of dinghy racing and stuff. But we used to go to the boat show every year, and of course they were all over the J's and the latest racing machine and this. And I would always make my way over and kick the tires of the OVNI, you know, knowing I would never ever have enough money to purchase one, you know. And my mates, they all Crothers is away again looking at the tin boats. But yeah, I do love them.
Fantastic, Gary. I'm going to bring in Daria Blackwell because she's put a question on the TNA, or a statement on the TNA Q&A, and I've opened her microphone. So go ahead, Daria.
Simon, hi, it's Vera here. I think for some reason Daria is on the profile. I think possibly because she sent me the email. But can you hear me okay? This is Vera.
We can hear you loud. We can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Hi, Gary. How are you doing? Absolutely, fantastic presentation. Well done. Brilliant videos. And the kids here, Lillian and Rory, were watching as well with myself and Peter. And they remember meeting you, and just so inspiring. I really think some you know, some talks at schools would be amazing. You know, just showing the kids how you can kind of, you know, overcome the difficulties that you have done. Just incredible.
Hi, Gary.
I don't know if you can see or if our video is showing, but Rory is saying hi to you, Gary.
Oh yeah, I can hear Rory. So how you doing, Rory?
Good.
Are you back at school yet?
Yeah.
Oh dear, oh dear. Do you not wish you were back out in the Caribbean?
Sometimes.
That's what you miss.
Yeah. Well, you spent the lockdown, I think, is it in Dominica or Antigua?
Barbuda.
Antigua, yes. I think I saw your photographs, and you seem to be having a wonderful time. I was stuck on my boat. We weren't even allowed to swim off the back of the boat in St. Martin, and I could see you all having a great time paddling about, and I was stuck there. Oh, it was awful.
Yeah, we had a good time diving.
He did it. He's saying he had a good time diving. He did a lot of diving. He learned how to snorkel properly and free dive properly. It's Barbuda we were in, just to the south here, Gary.
That's right, Barbuda. I remember now. I had other friends in Dominica as well. Everybody that I knew seemed to be in a better place than I was. I was in a. Oh, it wasn't good where I was.
But it's fine.
We've Kim Graven, a token non-OVNI owner, obviously says, "I'm amazed. Thanks very much for sharing. You're inspiring and a shining light. But one thing, Halberg Rasseys can compete with OVNIs apparently, but I'm sure you'll disagree with that."
No, Halberg Rasseys are you know, beautiful boats. I've been on them. I've never sailed on a Halberg Rassey, but by all accounts, they are good boats. In all honesty, the OVNI 435 that I bought is probably a little bit big for my needs. If truth be told, you know, I bought the bigger boat with the hope that my wife would spend more time on board. But and I suppose in the Caribbean, yes, she did spend more time on board. But a smaller boat would be a lot easier to handle, you know. So I may go for an OVNI 36 next time.
For sure. Garry, thank you ever so much. It's been a lovely evening, actually. Just as everybody else has said, really great to see the videos of you and just get the feel for what it's like to actually sail with the difficulties that you have. It's, you know, fixing an autopilot, putting 5 wires back in a simple spring-loaded chock box. You just don't think how difficult that would be, or putting a pair of gloves on, or a glove on. Extraordinary, and you brought that to light, and the emotion that it brings with it, the frustration, and the kind of loneliness of being there. Because I get the feeling you're not a single-handed sailor by choice, a solo sailor, I mean, by choice. But this was a long crossing, and of necessity, solo sailing.
Yes, it certainly was a long crossing. It's the longest passage that I've ever done, either on a big steel ship or sailing by myself or single-handed, you know. So it it was a big task for myself, you know, and it was a wee bit daunting initially, you know, like, you know, I was fully aware of it, fully aware of my own weakness. You know, I'm not a strong man, and I depend heavily on, for example, on the electric winch, you know, to lift things up, and you just got to get on with it, and you just try to put those things at the back of your mind and just take one. What was it, one day, but like an alcoholic, one day at a time. You just do. You just go from task to task, and I see Anita and Steve of Hamilton are on there, and send me wishes there. So hi to Anita, and I followed your passage up the Clyde. You did well, and Garry, not what God, Vera. I laughed when I read the story that Vera had to stick her thumb out and get some extra diesel from a passing ship. Oh, that's just typical Irish, you know. A big drum of diesel. Go, Vera.
Oh yeah, it was a cheap trip across the North Atlantic. You know yourself, Garry.
Way to go, way to go. But did you use much? Did you use much diesel? Well, obviously you did use a lot of diesel, but I'm not tight. I wouldn't use it.
Yeah, we did. The short answer is yes, Garry, we did. This is Peter here.
The passage was really beset with very, very light winds for the first 2 weeks were just it was just awful. You just every day you got the grid files and you looked, and you saw the high pressure ahead of you, but it was only maybe another 100 miles or 150 miles to get to the other side of the high, and then you get the next grid, and the bloody high pressures move a wee bit further north as well, and day after day after day the bloody high pressure ridge just sustained. You know, it ran all the way from the English Channel down to the Caribbean. It was
absolutely, Garry. We had the same as you know, and it just seemed we kept going further north and north and north till we could. I mean, we weren't far off Newfoundland, and then it just kind of kept. We you know, it would then move. It would move east, and then it would move west again, and oh my God, it just took forever. And as you know, we headed into the Azores eventually after what was it, 26 days, and the kids had a calendar up, and they had, I was saying 18 to 20 days, I should make 20 days and they could tick them off. It was one of the little projects we were doing. Anyway, there you go, it's a running joke.
That's right. Yeah, it was I ended up 380 miles southeast of Newfoundland before I picked up westerlies. So I was well north, you know, before I started coming across. And then around about that sort of stage when I was turning north, we got tangled up in those big thunderstorms, and Free Lewis, the steelboat behind me, about 120 miles behind me, he, what you call Nicholas, Frenchman, Nicholas Sharpie, I can't pronounce his name. He got hit with lightning, and he had to turn back, and it was... It certainly wasn't the same downwind passage that we had from Lanzarote across to Trinidad. You know, that was proper champagne sailing. The return journey across the east direction is just a total pain in the neck. It wasn't there was nothing easy about it.
And we did very much the right thing
in terms of having debt.
Yeah.
I think Jennifer McNamara would like to come in. Jennifer, do you want to go ahead?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just looking to see what questions were being asked. I think this is just an amazing story. I'm loving it, and I'm living in the middle of the continent in the United States right now. We have a local center for individuals with physical disabilities. And when I was younger, my husband and I put on regattas at our local lake, and we've raised over, he thinks we raised at least $250,000 towards the Center for Individuals with Physical Disabilities. And I'm so glad to see your wonderful adventure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm impressed at the amount of money you raised. I thought I was doing well. I raised about £4,000 or £3,000 on this trip, and we managed to buy a second-hand Hawk 20 day sailor for use whenever COVID restrictions. So I thought I was doing very well. But it pales into, yet there's another reason I pale into significance again at my measly 4,000, and you're coming in there with your $250,000. Wow!
Well, but that was over 10 years. Over 10 years. So. We put it on quite a few times.
Okay.
So to wind up, Garry, Brian Wallace says, fantastic talk, well done, all credit to you. And his punchline is, did you get back to your daughter's wedding?
I did, and I had issues with my computer, as you could see.
Really?
I had a wee video of her walking up the aisle with myself arm in arm, and she looked beautiful on the day, and I'm so glad I made the effort to come home and not miss it. So yeah, everything worked out good.
That's a fantastic story, Garry. Thank you ever so much. I mean, it is way late now, and we're 10 past 10, but we will see you on Saturday. I hope you're dialing in on Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah.
No problem.
Great.
And listen, I apologize again for the technical issues there.
Look, please don't apologize. We are in awe of what you did. And seeing the kind of raw emotion of the frustration and the difficulties of doing stuff that we would just take for granted was worth every minute. So please don't apologize. I think people have really enjoyed it. It's been informative and inspiring, and you are a worthy winner of the Seamanship Award. I have no doubt about it. Anybody who can fix a complicated electric winch with a Coke tin in the middle of the Atlantic with one arm. Awesome.
Yeah. Indeed, Simon, if I can just add, Garry, that was fabulous. Thank you very much. That was completely awe-inspiring and gripping. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. And I should really, if truth be told, I should have spent more time on the videos. I only started the videos about 2 days ago, and I didn't even know how to do video editing. I'll be on YouTube yet, right?
Well, for those 70 people that are online, I will now reveal that Garry's got quite a lot on his plate this week. He showed me a picture when we did our run through at the weekend, and his house is in bits. In fact, is that a hole in the wall behind you, or is that a television? I'm not too sure.
No,
renovations going ahead.
That is an actual fireplace behind me, but that was my kitchen. That was my kitchen last week, and at least all the acro props are now out of the place, and it's all clean. But still.
So if the acro props are out of the place, has everything fallen down?
No. There was a huge big steel beam that went in, So it worked out. It worked out fine,
Great.
Yeah, so well.
Garry, we'll let you get on. We'll see you Saturday, and thank you very, very much indeed. Great talk, really enjoyed it. And thanks to
everybody. Thanks a lot for everyone, and cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good meeting.
Thanks, folks. Bye.
Bye.